Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And it's just me.
And I felt like I should talk about something because it's been going on around me in my life. And I like to play commentator. It's kind of my right when I'm not involved in any of the horse shit that goes down. So, my ex,
The Beast.
she lives with her now not so best friend, which, by the way, if you want to fuck up a friendship, live together. Because they were, quote, best friends. Now,
The Beast.
Can't stand her. The roommate, she's a hot mess. All right, single mom, works in a bar. She's turning 30, and she's a huge drunk. She's got a plate in her elbow from a drunken tumble she took one snowy night years ago, walking home from the bar after work. She's a kid with some guy who's a total loser, could start a support group with Charlie Sheen, and has an on-again, off-again love of tranny porn.
You got to be kidding me.
He's a winner. His current girlfriend, I'm told, looks like a dude. I haven't seen him, her, it, but I mean, it makes sense because we've heard rumors that checked his internet history and found out that he was looking at tranny porn websites. It's just kind of a side note, but I'm mentioning it because I want you to be aware of the company she keeps. Also has a sordid history of drunken one-nighters, multiple abortions, and a list of partners that she, quote, lost count of. But I'm putting it around, 80? Thanks in part to some scorekeeping by the Beast herself. Just put that in perspective. I have like 107 Facebook friends. I'm not one of those assholes that, everybody I've ever met. Most of those 107 are semi-estranged. Like, you have old work friends, old high school buddies, people that you barely keep contact with. So I'm going to say the average person barely knows 80 people. She's had 80 people inside of her, at least. Not to mention that she's probably got a punch card for frequent flyers down at the local Planned Parenthood office. And she acts like there's nothing wrong with banging that many dudes. But let's put it in perspective. If every December you can count on getting a Christmas card from your local birthright clinic, you're a whore. So the other night, and this is why I'm talking about all of this, gets a DUI.
And it's not her first one.
She ran a red light, got hit by another car while doing so, and then she went to jail. The next day was supposed to be her son's 4th birthday party on his 4th birthday. So she had to use her one free phone call to tell her mom where she was and her Facebook login info to cancel the party. Plus the fact that the day after that, she was scheduled to fly out to Boston with her mom for a 30th birthday trip of her own. So the kid's party didn't happen. I don't know if she made it up to him after she got out 2 days later. The trip got pushed back a day, but thankfully they didn't have to bail on the whole Boston thing. She got a low bail, so lucky you. And now her and her mom went off jet setting to the greater New England area, and hopefully she's not drunk, because if she is, she's probably doing God knows what with God knows who, and chugging a beverage that rhymes with Eamon. The car that she got the DUI in, turns out it wasn't insured. Kind of a big deal, because in Minnesota, where we live, that's the law. Better yet, and she's had this car for like a few months back. She got it. It's pretty nice compared to the piece of shit van that was missing a mirror and some door handles and crap that she was lugging her kid around in before. The new car, she didn't even bother to transfer the title to her own name, and she's had it for months. All right, think about that. Imagine you're sitting at home, you get a phone call from like a tow truck company or something, and hey, you're listed as the registered owner of this vehicle, and we just want to let you know where we're towing it to. Well, what do you mean? I sold that car. It's just like that story Neil told on Blumkin and Friends. his Blazer getting towed. That the person who bought his Blazer never switched the title. She never switched the title to this new car. So now that person could be on the hook for some of the litigation. Who knows? In our Sue Happy Nation, everybody's asshole is fair game when it comes to getting fucked by the courts. So for this roommate now, with all the shit I've told you about her, I just want you to know that from here on out, I'm going to refer to her as the Bandit. Short for the Rum and Cum Guzzling Bandit. There's a nice ring to it, right? Rum and Cum. It's like the name of a bad Charms Blow Pop flavor. I'm not even fucking joking. Like, this girl, she once had a three-way with a married guy and his wife. And the wife left him, and she and he made a baby. And that's why she's a single mom. The Rum and Cum Bandit. So apparently a week prior to the DUI, and
The Beast
feels guilty for this going down the way it did. The Bandit's up at like 2 a.m., wakes up
The Beast.
and Loverboy. They go to the kitchen, and she's tearing the kitchen apart, eating. Right? She was apparently of questionable dress. I didn't find out what that means, but frequently she'll come home drunk in the middle of the night and then be in the kitchen getting a glass of water or something. Just Porky Pigging it, nude from the waist down. Great human being. So she ate $12 worth of food that wasn't hers. Then she stumbles back downstairs after they got into an argument about it, sleeps until about noon, and comes upstairs to find that her son had been playing on his tablet for almost 4 hours, waiting for her to wake up and make him breakfast. I wish I was making this shit up.
The Beast
Thought so ill of this that she scolded her the next morning and threatened to tell the Bandit's mother. And this is ironic because of all the people that try to tell someone they have a problem with alcohol, it's
The Beast.
speaking up. I've made no short measure of telling everybody her problems with booze. In lieu of a half a dozen interventions I tried to force
The Beast.
through to get the boozing to stop. Now she's got the shoe on the other foot. And honestly, when it was us, you'd think that having a guy take care of you, make a family, and you have a beautiful child at home to nurture would change a person. But nope, not
The Beast.
And the fucked up thing is, grand total in life, because of her, I'm like 1 for 7 on interventions. Like, I tried to get her to see the error of her ways. Even one time pulling out a bottle of pain meds that she was nursing for no good reason, and this bottle of vodka she had laying around. She had gotten it as a push present from her coworkers. Aren't they great? So I set the bottle of pills on the counter. I set the bottle of booze on the counter. I'm like, this is what you really want to do, right? You love these things so much. Here, just same time right now. Just get rid of it, all of it. Just finish the job already. Insensitive? Maybe. But I didn't have like a baptismal fountain to pour it into and stage a Tommy Gavin-inspired life adjustment seminar with her. Rescue me reference. So this other time, when we were living at the apartment, also, I was walking by her purse, and I smelled weed. So I looked inside, and sure as shit, there was her stash bag. And I had a rule about keeping her weed in her car, and nowhere near the apartment, because it was in my name. She just kind of secretly lived there. And, our baby was there too, the juice. So while she was passed out in bed, I took the weed, dumped it out in the grass outside. I smashed her glass one-hitter, and then the cherry on the sundae there, I took the bottle of vodka, the push-present bottle, and I chucked it in the dumpster. Later on that afternoon, I would fish that bottle of booze out of the dumpster, because it was still intact. And I made her pour it out into the toilet as punishment for being such a neglectful sniz and bringing illegal drugs into the apartment. And I'm not saying, oh my God, it's weed, but it's still illegal, and I work in a jail, you dumb bitch. Let's not ruin my life because you're so fucking worthless. So the whole making her pour out the bottle of booze, I kind of did it as a symbolic gesture. Like, this is you getting your shit together, pouring out the booze. Just every glug, 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 glug of the bottle into the toilet is more of your stupidity spilling onto your head as synapses fire off in your brain and you start to kind of have a come to Jesus with yourself, like, God, this is really happening. This is what I should have been doing a while ago. This is me getting my act together for my daughter.
Bing bong, hello.
And it may seem extreme to you, but I wanted her to get the picture that she had changed now. She'd become a mother. And I shouldn't have had to, but that's just where she was in life, and I guess how high and mighty I am. If you didn't know by now, you know, I'm straight edge. I don't drink at all. And I've never tried drugs.
Roadhouse.
My hernia surgery, as I've mentioned before, I didn't even get any prescription pain meds. Mainly because I didn't want opiates in my body. The weed incident, nothing by comparison to this one time. Right? And this is once we had moved into the house. I wake up middle of the night and she's supposed to be at home in bed with me. I go out in the living room and I see a puddle of undigested spaghetti puked up all over my brand new fucking carpet. And there was some on her and some on the couch. And she's laying slumped over like she's half dead. So she puked up virtually whole spaghetti. Like a lot.
Ew.
And on top of this, there's a blanket half on her. And on the edge of the blanket is one of those sundae cones by Good Humor. You know, with the nuts and the fudge dipping coated on the top. Yeah, one of those. Half eaten on the blanket next to her. Guess who got stuck cleaning up that mess? I'll give you a hint. His name rhymes with Hey Man.
I don't get it.
So just imagine if you ate a full bowl of spaghetti and you barely chewed it. And then sat down and immediately horked it up while falling into a drunken stupor. And then because, you know, the spaghetti wasn't enough to fill the void in your soul that was already swimming in booze, you tried to eat an ice cream cone and drop it on the same couch that you've chosen to make your landing pad. Fuck! I chewed her out big time, and then she just stumbles down the hallway and goes to bed. And then I get stuck fucking cleaning frantically because I just spent 3 G's on new flooring for the house. I didn't want my carpet ruined. And I got to tell you, it was a bitch to get the smell of spaghetti puke out of my leather couch. It took me about a month and multiple cleanings. And the carpet, thankfully, was fine, if you wonder or care.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Next morning, she gets up and she's pissed at me for yelling at her so much. Like, I'm the bad guy because I'm giving her the 3rd degree about all this. Which is fucking bullshit, by the way. She says, I would have cleaned it up in the morning. Yes, because, you know, rolling out of bed at the crack of 11:30 counts. And no, I'm not going to let pasta sauce and noodles and stomach bile soak into my new goddamn carpet for 6 hours, you brain-dead bitch. Only somebody who wants their house to smell like the bathroom at the Olive Garden does that. So there we are, same day. We're at the bar she works at, which is a shithole, but serves brunch. Nom, 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 nom. We're classy people. Her young, impressionable coworker is talking to us at the table, and the whole story gets brought up, and I mentioned some of it. And then I just kind of went, yeah, I wanted to wring her neck so goddamn bad when I saw that. And the next day now, that same coworker, I think she was like 20 years old, goes up to
The Beast.
and mentions my comment about wringing her neck, and she's like, does he hurt you? Because that's not okay. Like, apparently, girls these days are so fucking stupid and uneducated in English comprehension that you can't make a statement about being frustrated with somebody with a euphemism towards domestic violence before they go all fucking Alexandra House counselor on the bit and think that there's actual domestic abuse going on. And I'm just sitting there like, really?
Really? Really?
The Beast tells me this, and I'm just thinking, oh, grant me the serenity. I'd love to have gone Ike Turner on the bitch. She's one of the few women I've met in my life who deserved a good ass beating. At that point. Not now so much. You know, what am I going to do to her that life already hasn't or will shortly? And yes, talking about hitting a woman is wrong and misogynistic. But, some people actually deserve to get their ass kicked for being shitty towards those who love them and taking them for granted. Ow! So it's not like she had a clear conscience in the realm of domestic violence herself at that point in time. She had already kicked, spat, and punched me once, which was an incident outside of our apartment. And I'll just tell you the story. We went out to eat, and then we came home, and I had told her that I was going to be okay with her having 2 glasses of wine at dinner, and she had snuck around the corner to the bar section of where she works and bumped into her brother and his girlfriend, and she had had a shot of Rumplemints and a beer and another shot of Rumplemints on top of her 2 glasses of wine, and that was before she really touched her dinner. So we got back to the apartment, and it was winter, and I went inside with our daughter, who I had picked up, and I bring the juice, and I put her in her crib, and I come back outside to get the beast out of my car, because it's cold, and I'm a nice guy. I don't want her to fucking die of hypothermia. She's like, I think I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, well, get the fuck out of my car, bitch. I undid the seatbelt, and I pulled on her arm, and I pulled her out of the car, and that's when she got pissed, apparently. And she got punch crazy, kick crazy, and then she had hocked a loogie up on my cheek that was the size of, like, a baseball, pushing me, kicking me, and then the neighbors are starting to wake up from her screaming, fuck you! Fuck you! Give me my shit! I'm leaving! And then I pushed her down in the snow and then ran inside the 8 feet to the sliding door because we lived on ground level, and then I locked her out, and she was punching and kicking the window out. I would have just left her out there if I thought she wasn't going to, in a drunken rage, break the motherfucker. Just screaming, give me my shit! Just repeatedly. And I'm like, why has nobody called the cops? And the neighbor says, they're coming, bud, don't worry. And long story short, I didn't press charges that time, and I should have, God damn it. Well, then there was another occasion that she got elbow happy, and I had to restrain her. That was at the apartment. I basically just had to grab her from behind, like a reverse bear hug, and hold her till she stopped trying to punch me in the walls. And then another occasion, this is when we lived at the house, where she came home from drinking after work, and we got in a fight about her driving drunk. And then she's like, well, fuck you. I'm going to go back to work and just drink with my friends because I'm sick of you. So I took her keys and I chucked them in the backyard. And then she told me she was going to call the cops on me for holding her hostage if I didn't go get them. I guess when you work for the man, the threat of your old lady calling the cops on you for holding her hostage seems scary. Even though, I was doing the right thing and they probably would have told her to settle down. Like, if I would have known then what I know now, I was like, fuck it, call him, bitch, do it. But I was afraid my boss would think my life was out of order and fire me for her shortcomings, because they kind of do that a lot in corrections and law enforcement. If you have a family member who's fucked up, and there's no loyalty anywhere anymore, really, especially if you work for the government, because they'll just toss you out on your ass, whether it's right or wrong, as long as they can get rid of something that's a distraction or they're afraid they can get sued. So I took her keys and I chucked them in the backyard. And being the scaredy sap that I was, I went and got them. And when I go back in the house, she tries to lock me out of my own house. When you walk in, there is a landing and then 14 steps to the basement right there next to it. I wedge my foot in the door, push my way in. She falls back, stands up, tries to shove me down the fucking stairs. And that's when I just got pissed. So I pushed her back into the kitchen, told her to leave me the fuck alone. And because I pushed her in self-defense, she decided it was a good time to start beating me upside the head. And like fucking hard overhead knuckle punches. I tried to block as many as I could, but I ended up with a bruise on my skull and blood on my shirt that was also ripped. I don't even know where the blood came from. Possibly from my knuckles from defensive wounds. But yeah, every instance of these, we had an intervention. And it failed. So I'm sure I'm not the only guy who's had to deal with a drunken soul sucker of a baby mama. And I won't be the last either, because these brilliant millennials just keep turning up the notches on their drunken dumb fuckery to new and exciting levels. So you got her friends, including the Bandit, or her other friend who's twice conceived children from one-night stands, and that girl's sister who's conceived child with a one-night stand. Tons of broads in their 20s They like to get turned up and raise hell. And many a man has gotten caught up in the headwinds of a shitnami from someone like this in their life. I can only hope that this behavior, once vocalized to our teenage daughters of the future, will stop them from becoming like their mother. Because, it's cyclical, but hopefully not genetic. P.S. That one victory in the intervention game that I mentioned, I'd like to think that I saved a man's life. It was a friend of mine who was very, very depressed and had been journaling about it. And his roommate found the journal and read it. Told me about it because apparently he didn't know how to handle it. Came home from being out with his girlfriend at the time. He seemed like he was in a good mood. I was like, well, I'm not going to leave it. Let's go hang out in your room since Sleepy Magoo over there wants to go to bed. And we sat there in his room. And yeah, I told a few jokes and he's laughing. And I'm like, it's good to see you smile. Because lately you've been in a really weird spot. And I know that you're depressed. Because read your journal. And he told me. And he was pissed. I'm like, hang on. He didn't do it because he was fucking with you. He did it because he's worried about you. Because we've been talking about your demeanor as of late. And I guess I wanted to know more and he wanted to know more and he took it upon himself. So, apparently he had written in there that his girlfriend had had a dream. They were laying in bed together holding hands and they had their wrists slit. And he commented that it sounded very romantic. Now, far be it from me to question anybody's mindset when they're depressed, but romanticizing suicide like some weird Romeo and Juliet fantasy is a little concerning. And this friend is like a brother to me. So I'm like, dude, you got to stop with this shit. I know you're down and out, but you got to think about everyone else. Your mom, who'd be devastated. Your dad, who'd just be pissed because that's who he is. Your brother, who was 3 years younger than us. Like, what's he going to do? How's he going to feel? Forever being the guy whose brother committed suicide. And you've been there for him his whole life and suddenly you're not around. And not that he needs you to hold his hand, but that's a pretty big mind fuck when your sibling kills himself. Buddy, shut the fuck up! Now is not the time. Serious time. So I said all that and he kind of started to tear up. And I'm like, and what about me? What about your friends? What about all of us that are here all the time for you? And you're going through all this shit and you don't tell us what's going on. You just keep bottling it up, compartmentalizing your feelings. And we're here for you and you know that. You got to make use of your network of friends and companions that care about you and your family. So think of all of us left behind just because you got your head all a mess. And apparently that was what snapped him back into reality. So he thanked me and he hugged me. And I'm just like, I want you to remember that these words aren't going to magically fix everything. They're to get you going in the right direction. So tomorrow is day one of you getting your head back together. And he was virtually speechless. It had a profound effect on him because obviously he didn't kill himself. He's still around. But circling back to the overarching theme that I mentioned, I'm 1 for 7 on interventions. And it's because of
The Beast.
I've wasted a lot of attempts on
The Beast.
And now I get to bring a new character into the lexicon of the show, the Bandit. And just picture 2 girls that are turning 30 and still like to party with reckless abandon. And the only reason that
The Beast
isn't a drunken mess right now is because she's pregnant. She even says, she's like, if I wasn't pregnant, I'd probably be doing what the Bandit's doing. Drinking, not drinking and then just like fucking random dudes. Because I don't know what the hell happened to the Bandit when she was a kid, but she has got an awfully large appetite for cock. And she prides herself on her dick-taking ability. So I don't know if just she didn't get enough love growing up, because I met her parents. They're nice people. There's a hole inside of her, and she's trying to fill that hole with things. Tubular, meaty man things. When you picture
The Beast
and the Bandit, I want you to think of like the Dukes of Hazzard, only instead of the General Lee, they're in
The Beast.
old, broken down, busted up Forest Green, Bonneville, and they're just sitting there token up in the parking lot of the two bars they work at because they're across the street from each other. And they're just giggling and having a gay old time. And then they get further down the road and hopefully don't kill anybody, which they haven't yet, but they'd frequently just get shitty at work, and then they'd walk across the street to each other's work and drink together. And I can't tell you how many times that
The Beast would
come home and be like, oh my God, the Bandit was on the patio at work, just drunk, making out with this guy she had just met that night who apparently just gotten out of prison. Buddy, shut the fuck up! Fuck your face. Fuck your face. Don't you give me that sass. So yeah, I mean, that's the Bandit. I'm not exaggerating for comedic effect either. 3 abortions. 3 abortions, and I can't tell you how many times she's gone to the pharmacy and eaten Plan B like she had just gotten out of being a captive and she's mowing it down like the last meal she thought she was ever going to have. This girl is a fucking dumpster fire. And this DUI just hopefully will wake her up because she's got her son who already looks like there's something wrong with him. I don't know. I tell my girls, I'm like, yeah, don't try to avoid him. He's a meathead. He's just a dumb boy. Maybe he's a little retarded. And this is the life she chooses to lead. Great people, right? And then they're friends, so they sit around and swap war stories and then go home and then complain about each other. Because women are bitches and they don't know how to be friends. Unrelated note, I went to the Ghost concert at the Myth, and that was a fun time. Except there was this guy there that, right before Ghost goes on stage, they're prepping all their kits and all that. Sound check guys doing their thing. There's this kid with half his head shaved and then a mullet on the right side of his head. And he's standing uncomfortably close to me, and he keeps like slowly inching back my way, and I had my hands in my pockets because I didn't want to like anybody to accidentally bump into me and like, hey, you trying to touch me? Because that's what I do when I'm at shows. I just kind of stand in one place, keep to myself, nod my head as the music's going. I don't get crazy or nothing. So he keeps bumping into me, and I move back twice, and he kept bumping into me again, and this is his butt cheek making contact with my hand in my pocket near my crotch, and I finally went, oh my God! Can you please move up like a half fucking step? I'm so sick of you rubbing your butt on me. It's like you're trying to cop a cheap feel or something, you fruit. I'm like, look at those chicks in front of you. How is it that there's a foot between you and them and an inch between you and me? And he's like, hey, if you want space, go stand in the back. There's not even that much room between me and them. This is a fucking Ghost concert, not Lady Gaga. And I just stood there, and I should have had a witty retort, but I was kind of like, did he really just mention Lady Gaga? And there's people behind me that are like, oh, sick burn. You're mocking him. And I rolled my eyes, obviously, and gave them the thumbs up. And so I spent the majority of the rest of the concert with him still in front of me, contemplating all the ways I wanted to murder him in public.
Murder.
I just kept thinking about giving him a jumping Muay Thai elbow right to the fucking top of the head. And just leaving him there on the floor. Because if you're going to go to a show, yeah, people are going to bump into you. But why would you continually be making contact with me like that? Really? Like, are you a fucking closet case? And the look on his face, when he said the Lady Gaga thing, he's like, this is a fucking Ghost concert, not Lady Gaga. I'm not exaggerating. That's how he sounded. He sounded like that fucking nerdy teenage kid from The Simpsons who's got all the crappy jobs. Like one specific instance where Homer's at a taco place and the kid's like, uh-oh, your taco fell in the fryer. I'll get it out. Ow! 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 Well, I can't get it. That's going to come out of my paycheck. If I had a girlfriend, she'd kill me. That kind of nerd. Plus, I wanted to be like, dude, you know what? One, I am more man than you can handle. All right? Both in the bedroom and in a fight. And if I were you, I would take my attitude and my tight-fitting girl jeans that you're wearing with your Harry Potter glasses, go back to Supercuts and ask for your $7 back. You stupid cunt. Thankfully, near the end of the show, he moved and I had a better view of the stage because, Ghost is a visual band and all of their concerts are played off like they're a faux black mass. There's satanic imagery and references in their music, but it's all for show. They're not a legitimately satanic band. I encourage you to check out Ghost. But yeah, I don't do well in crowds. I've mentioned this before, that's why I avoid concerts, because I get really, really pissed off with people too close to me and they're inconsiderate, and I want to get violent. Everything from years ago at the Quest being on the upper deck and there's some 14-year-old girl there with her dad and her brother next to me, and they can't see why I'm getting so pissed off that she's headbanging while dripping with sweat, and it's flicking sweat all fucking over me. That shit's gross. How can you be that clueless? I came here to have a good time and it's all about me. Well, you can have a good time, but grab a couple paper towels out of the bathroom and wipe down, you dingy bitch. Or another instance where I was at Steel Panther for the X-Girl finale. This is 3 years ago, and I had won the tickets off the radio. And there's this kid next to me, just a scrawny fucker, probably weighed about $120. And he keeps throwing his arm up, and his elbow keeps almost hitting me in the temple and the eye. And I kept asking him nicely. I'm like, dude, you need to get your arm out of my face, please. Scoot over a bit. Use the other arm. I don't know. So finally, his elbow bumped my ear. And I grabbed the side of his face, and I put my mouth right to his ear. And I said, if you don't get the fuck away from me right now, security is going to be dragging me out and calling the meat wagon to bring your body to the morgue. That, oddly enough, that made him move over. But I didn't used to have a problem with crowds at concerts until I went and saw Linkin Park back in 2000. And it was at the Quest, and it was so packed you couldn't breathe. And for some reason, people at concerts feel the need to push for the stage. I don't get it. If you get an extra 3 inches closer, but the person in front of you is suffocating, how does that benefit anybody? It's probably happening behind you too. And some girl had fallen down, and nobody bothered to pick her up, and some dude kept pushing me, and I hear screams. Well, he had been pushing me, and I had taken a step back to brace myself. I was standing on this girl, on her abdomen, and she's screaming. So I got off of her, and he's like, whoa, buddy, what's your problem? Because he was your typical rock douche. Grabbed him by the throat and said, you realize that you have me standing on a girl and she's fucking suffocating, you cunt? And the girl got picked up, and I'm like, I'm so fucking sorry. That was not my fault. Some guy kept pushing me on top of you. And then she went to go see the infirmary people because she probably had a fucking collapsed lung. I probably smashed one of her tits. I don't know. Nice guy when it comes time to give an intervention to someone I care about. Borderline Patrick Bateman from American Psycho level nutcase when I'm cornered and people are touching me and I don't want to be touched. What can I say? I don't like people in my bubble. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find the show on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann. And that's the end.
Fuck!